to attend today. Everyone, please introduce yourself in the chat. Who are you and where are you zooming in from? What brought you to Solar is for Everyone today? You can also add your questions or your comments at any time. We'll be looking at the chat and we'll aim to answer those questions live. In addition to the questions that many of you posted in your registration forms, we'll be answering those today. So as you do this and as we see the introductions in the chat, I want to introduce our first speaker today. Grace Concialdi is the Solar Outreach Coordinator at the Citizens Utility Board, or CUB. Grace studied natural resources and environmental sciences at the University of Illinois. She's been with CUB for a little over a year now, starting as the Outreach Coordinator before being promoted to Solar Outreach Coordinator. Grace, can you tell us about Community Solar?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to turn my camera off just to ensure quality Wi-Fi. Can everybody see my screen? Awesome. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about community solar. Like previously mentioned, my name is Grace Concialdi. I'm the Solar Outreach Coordinator with the Citizens Utility Board, or otherwise known as CUB. So to start out, we're just going to go over a quick agenda. So before we dive into the presentation, here's a little kind of roadmap of things that we'll be talking about. I'll start off with some background about CUB, how community solar works, how to find a good deal, and then the income qualified program called Illinois Solar for All. So Citizens Utility Board was created by the General Assembly in 1984. Through the CUB Act. CUB is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization with the main mission to fight utility rate hikes, promote clean energy, advocate for consumer protections. We have a great hotline for consumers to call that can ask questions about their utility bills. And our website has over 80 fact sheets on varying issues and educational topics from how to go solar, how to stop robocalls, how to decarbonize your home, and a plethora of other topics. So starting out, I want to go over just some quick benefits of solar. So I want to first talk about the environment. So by going solar, you can reduce demand for fossil fuels, limit greenhouse gas emissions, and shrink your carbon footprint. Next are health. Widespread solar adoption could significantly reduce nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide, and particulate matter emissions, all of which can cause health problems and create issues with air pollution. Next are jobs. As we kind of work to transition from fossil fuels to clean energy, the solar industry has grown. The state is currently working on ways to support and encourage this growth, and with that becomes opportunities for workforce development in a plethora of different areas that relate to solar. So from like marketing, construction, engineering, electricians, etc. And then last, I want to mention that solar is also great for our wallets. Solar has gotten a lot cheaper since technology has first come out. Solar is now comparable and even cheaper than other sources of energy. And so CUB definitely likes to speak on the fact that it can really help reduce people's bills, whether that's rooftop solar or community solar, like we're going to talk about today. So next, what is community solar?
Here is your directory.
So,
Here is your summary of changes.
sorry.
WellCare MIG.
Maybe we can mute incomers.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
Erasing.
let me
Yeah.
get,
Yeah.
So what?
Grace, you can unmute now.
Sorry about that. I did continue to talk. That's on me. Sorry about that. Anyway, what is community solar? So community solar essentially is a program that makes solar accessible for people who cannot or do not want to put solar on their homes for whatever reason. That could be because maybe you're a renter or you have a shaded roof or you can't afford to put solar on your roof with the higher upfront costs in some situations. So essentially, there are community solar gardens located all over the state, and this program allows consumers to subscribe to any project that's within their utility. So this is a great image that I like to show. It's essentially a map of utility territories in Illinois. So we have ComEd covering Chicagoland, Ameren covering downstate, and then Mid-American, which is the little orange spaces. And essentially, as long as the community solar project is somewhere within your utility territory, you can subscribe to it. So even if it's 100 miles away, you can still subscribe to it. It just has to be within your utility. So a little bit more about community solar. Just kind of want to talk about the process. So when you apply for a project, the developer will often ask you for at least a year's worth of electricity bills so they can see your average usage and so they can most accurately size your subscription to match that usage. If your usage ends up changing, for example, if you were to get an electric car, you can reach out to the company and they can always change your size to accommodate your additional usage. And then each month, your subscription will produce electricity. The community solar company will then report this amount of electricity your subscription produces and puts into the grid. In return, you'll then receive a credit on your bill, matching that amount of kilowatt hours. And I will show a few images on bill examples that might help you visualize a little bit better. So this is another great graphic from the Citizens Utility Board, our communications team. So how does community solar actually work? So instead of installing panels on your roof, you'll subscribe to the community solar project. Developers will build these solar gardens, like I mentioned previously, and pay for those upfront costs to build and maintain and connect the garden to the utility grid. And then when you sign up for community solar, you're subscribing to a small portion of that project's monthly output. Your neighbors, people, essentially anyone within that utility can subscribe to that project as well. Businesses can also subscribe, which I think is a great thing. And then that subscription fee will help pay the developer to fund the garden in the future. And then, like I said, in return, you'll get a credit on your electricity bill proportional to the electricity produced in your share of the garden. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about billing. So there are two different billing practices that are used. So one is consolidated, which is not widely used yet. Essentially, that means your solar credits and charges will appear on your regular monthly electric bill. And then the way you see your normal electrical charges and the discount is right on your bill. Unfortunately, it is not used by a lot of companies yet, but the other option is a two billing system or a dual billing system, which is the example graphic on the screen currently. So in this option, community solar subscribers will receive two separate bills, one from their utility, and then another from that community solar provider that you have a subscription with. Consumers will earn the credits on their electric bill, just like in consolidated billing, but they pay for the credits via a separate invoice from the community solar company. So the subscribers are still saving the same amount every month, but the two billing system, essentially you get two bills and you essentially pay the community solar company at a discounted rate, usually 10 to 20%, which I will speak about in a later slide. So a little bit more about how the savings work. They're going to be applied to your supply portion of the bill. If the credit is worth more than the supply, it can be supplied to other sections, so you're never going to lose credits. Sometimes your production will be, for example, lower in the winter and then higher in the summer, but you'll always be paying that discounted rate. So I like to say that, like, instead of paying ComEd for electricity, you're paying the community solar provider, like I mentioned previously. And then here is just like a ComEd bill of what your bill could look like with the renewable credits on it. Shows you what your solar project name is, how much it produced, and then how much that saved you. And then this is another example of that with the addition of what your online portal could look like with your community solar company. So we like to talk about some questions we like to ask. We like to have consumers ask. So if you're interested in signing up for community solar, there are a lot of different providers to go with. So there are a few questions that we recommend you ask when trying to figure out what company to go with. So some of those examples are, so what are the savings? Usually with regular community solar offers, so not income qualified, it's usually 10 to 20% discount. Another question is, what's the contract term? Is there an exit fee? Do they require a credit check? How will the company bill you? So for example, consolidated or the two billing system. Is there a wait list, which is another important thing we find is very helpful to ask the providers. Next, on the Citizens Utility Board website, there is a great comparison chart, a great resource that shows a variety of different offers that we update every few months to reflect the most recent offers. The first 2 pages are offers that apply to everyone, and then the last 2 are income qualified. The last 2 pages are income qualified programs, which I will go over in the next slide. But this is a great resource that helps a lot of people kind of have everything kind of put in front of them and kind of make the decision a little easier. That's what we hope, at least. And then lastly, we're going to talk about Illinois Solar for All. Illinois Solar for All is the income qualified solar program. That means it's no upfront cost. Savings guarantee any ongoing costs or fees will not exceed 50% of the value of the energy produced. Residential households at 80% or lower area median income qualify. If you go to illinoissolarforall.com, you can check if you qualify. Essentially, you put in your county, how many people are bringing home income into your home, and then it will give you a number that you have to be at or below to qualify. And then some of programs that Illinois Solar for All works with are rooftop solar, community solar, and which we're talking about today, and then nonprofit and public facilities. This QR code, you're more than welcome to scan that QR code. It will show you to a little form that will just kind of ask you about your interest to further help us reach out to you and help you go through the process if that's something you are interested in. Thank you, everyone. My name and my email are on the screen. If you have any questions about anything I spoke about today, don't hesitate to give me a call or send me an email.
Grace, thank you so much for that presentation. What a great service. You can call and someone will help you to walk you through the process. If you have questions as you're doing it, that may be a really good option. So after this informative presentation, we all know a little bit more about community solar, how it works, and the benefits it bestows. So next, I want us to hear from someone who's experienced community solar as a consumer and a resident. So as our next presenter, we have Art Spooner. Art has lived in Oak Park since 1974. A retired engineer, he and his wife have 2 daughters, one of whom lives in Oak Park too. Art is an OP-CAN climate coach, which you'll hear more about, and has also been active in Interfaith Green Network. Art, can you tell us about your experience with community solar? I think you're still muted.
Thank you, sorry. And unmute and share my presentation. Can everybody see the presentation there?
Looks great. We see the whole presentation, maybe now in presentation mode. Perfect.
There you go. There are 2 primary reasons that people sign up for community solar. One reason is it saves money, and the other reason is it helps the growth of a green energy economy. As a customer of the solar industry over the past 7 years, I started out really frustrated by some limitations of the industry. I lived through community solar growing pains, and today I'm enjoying the benefits to my family and to organizations I am a part of, and I'm really excited about the opportunities for growth. When I retired, my first goal was to put panels on the roof of this house. You can see that there's plenty of room on the south-facing roof, and there aren't too many tree branches. The back roof has space for even more solar panels. Getting quotes was easy. Friends who had installed solar panels provided contact information for reputable solar suppliers. I got 3 quotes, each of which included a detailed description of the work to be done, estimates of the federal and state rebates available, and a 6 or 7 year payback period. I thought my next step would be to select a contractor. But as I read the quotes more carefully, each installer said something like, "We notice you have a clay tile roof. We want you to know that we've never installed solar panels over a clay tile roof." It turned out that the contractors were so concerned about the risks of a clay tile roof that I had to give up. The bottom line was 6 months of frustration, sorry. But I did learn a lot about solar technology and how the solar industry works. A few months later, a friend at church invited me to a meeting of the Interfaith Green Network. IGN is a collaboration of several congregations in the Oak Park River Forest community working together on various environmental projects. At the meeting, there was a presentation about community solar, which I had never heard of, similar to the presentation Grace just made. The flowchart on this slide shows a slightly different perspective on community solar, but it has the same elements as the slide Grace showed. 2 things made the biggest impression on me. You don't have to make any physical change to your house or building, and the program is available for either individuals or organizations like congregations, condo associations, small businesses. I started to learn as much as I could about this program. Everywhere I went, I asked the question, how can I sign up? All the answers were variations on, it's not quite ready yet. The enabling legislation had been passed in 2016, including funding of $100 million per year for solar farms. I thought it would be enough. But as it turned out, the Illinois Power Authority was oversubscribed. They received applications for about 4 times as many solar farms as they could support. The IPA finally had to have a lottery in April of 2019 to select the first 100 projects to be funded. Then it takes about a year to construct a community solar farm and connect it to the grid. So the bottom line is that my wife and I were finally able to sign up for an MC² solar farm as part of Oak Park's Community Solar Pilot Project on Earth Day of 2020. 3 months later, our ComEd bill showed that the community solar credits were being applied to our electric bill. And the next month we started getting bills from MC² reflecting the 20% discount on the supply charge, which Grace described. That solar farm, incidentally, is on top of a warehouse in Plainfield. And so as you explore the community solar market, you'll find out that they're scattered in, many are out near Rockford, they're scattered around the ComEd service, and some are on empty land in the inner city. In the next 2 years, catch up with the slides, I'm sorry. In the next 2 years, A lot of things happened in the community solar industry, leading to a Chicago Tribune headline in October of 2022. Community solar is about to explode. The story was on the front page of the print edition. The accompanying picture there shows three people, myself, Paul, and Elaine. We all now live in the same condo building. And let me tell you about the community solar subscriptions we're involved with. A year after my wife and I subscribed to MC Squared, we downsized from a 4-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom condo. We had saved about $90 per year in the house, so we were eager to continue community solar. All we had to do was call MC Squared and give them the moving date and the electric meter number for the condo. It's important to get the right size of community solar account. That's why companies start by looking at your existing electric bill. Because the woman we bought the condo from didn't use very much electricity, MC Squared actually underestimated the amount of electricity they needed to provide. So for our first year in the condo, our community solar subscription provided only about 70% of our electricity. MC Squared was happy to increase the size of our subscription when we pointed out the difference. In the condo, we're now saving about $50 per year, and the savings which you will see depend on how much electricity you use and on ComEd's base price for electricity. In addition to the individual accounts that Paul and Elaine and I have, the condo association itself has a community solar subscription. It's a much bigger account than any individual condo. It covers the electricity for the elevator, air conditioning the hallways, the garage, and exterior lighting. In the picture, the chart which Elaine is holding shows the savings, which have averaged $517 per year over the past 3 years. And I'm also the project manager for our church's community solar account with Nexamp. It's an even bigger account because it includes all the refrigerator freezers for the Beyond Hunger food pantry, as well as air conditioning for the office and preschool areas of the church. It saves the church about $3,000 per year. The key is that all the organization accounts, as well as the individual accounts, include that 20% discount on the supply cost. In writing the Tribune article, the reporter also talked to the administrators of several agencies involved with community solar. The Citizens Utility Board not only maintains the very informative website, which Grace discussed, but they have been strong consumer advocates throughout the state. The second quote really emphasizes how the stakeholders worked together to set up the community solar industry, which is one reason why Illinois program is one of the most accessible and inclusive programs in the country. So that was 2022. Let's fast forward to 2025. The big news this year is that around the world, solar has become a mainstream technology. The data on the chart was just updated this past Friday. When I saw it, I really wanted to include it in this presentation. It shows how new installations of solar power have continued to grow around the world for the past 5 years. Bill McKibben, the founder of both 350.org and Third Act, has a new book called Here Comes the Sun. It documents all the ways in which solar has become the first choice for generating new electricity anywhere in the world. As McKibben says, solar is no longer the Whole Foods of the energy market, it's more the Costco of the energy market. Any way you look at it, solar power is a global trend. Think globally and act locally continues to be a guiding principle for personal sustainability efforts. So to close this presentation, I want to think about how far we've come and how far there is to go. Community solar, which started 15 years ago in Colorado, is now available in 19 states and the District of Columbia. In Illinois, the solar industry has plenty of capacity. There are 200 existing farms and at least 75 additional farms in the pipeline. So there's solar capacity available today in Illinois. Here in Oak Park, there are about 21,000 households total. So the rooftop solar and community solar numbers shown here are just over 5% of the total households. That's a lot of opportunity for growth, particularly since community solar is a straightforward technology which saves money for consumers. So the big question is, will we be able to add your electric account to the list of accounts which are helping the world move toward a green energy future? Thank you.
Wow, Art, thank you so much. Fascinating. I learned a lot. It's always helpful to hear from someone who's done it before and to get a better understanding of how to proceed and what to expect as you move forward. Based on all of your forms when you signed up for this webinar, I know there remain questions that many of you have about community solar, even after these incredible presentations from Grace and from Art. So I want to invite both Grace and Art back. I can see they're pinned now or spotlighted. Thank you, Cindy, to help me answer those questions that we got. We'll also take additional questions live. I want to start with one of the questions that is common we're getting from a lot of Oak Parkers, and that is, how does community solar sign up relate to Oak Park's community aggregation program, MC squared? Art, could you tell us about that?
The short answer is they're two very different programs and they're 100% compatible. Municipal aggregation is a benefit to the village, and community solar is a benefit to individual subscribers. So it really simple. It is confusing to realize that there are two programs, both of which are MC squared participates in, but really they're two independent programs and they're 100% compatible.
Excellent. Anything to add, Grace?
No, sorry, I'm just trying to answer the one in the chat.
Excellent. Well, and we're going to get to those too. So I have a second question that we got. What is the cost of community solar compared to ComEd's normal electricity bill? And how quickly can you see that reflected in your own monthly bill? Grace, I think you mentioned this during your presentation. Is it about 20% reduction that I saw?
Yeah, the deals usually for non-income qualified are going to be 10% to 20%, which we usually see like around like $5 to $10 a month. But again, this all depends on how much is produced, how big your subscription is, how much energy you use. So it is definitely depends on your situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Could you tell us how it reflects the situations you described with the church and your households?
I think probably the way that I've realized it the best is a spreadsheet. And in the spreadsheet, I try to track the bills incoming from ComEd on the top of the spreadsheet, and then the bills from either MC squared or Nexamp on the bottom, and they just and making sure that they line up. I've been impressed by all the friends I have who are using spreadsheets to track that, because everybody says that even though there's a gap sometimes in time between ComEd and the community solar provider, just because of different billing cycles, they all end up balancing fine.
Well, that's great to hear. It's reassuring. I myself, a community solar subscriber, have not used the trusted or the trusty spreadsheet method. So I'm glad to hear your personal experience, which can inform the steps that I take as a subscriber. I also have a couple of other questions. You changed your household subscription. One of the questions we got was around what if you move from your home, and how could that affect your community solar subscription? And I think you described that a little. Isn't that true, Art?
Yeah, when we moved, it was just one or two phone calls just to tell MC squared what we were doing, where we were going, and give them the right amount of information. So it was very straightforward. And then even when they adjusted the total size of the new subscription, that was pretty straightforward.
That's great to hear. And did you have to be in that new home in your new condo any length of time before you signed up, or was it effective
No, it was
immediately?
all the day we moved in.
That's great to hear. Really fast. One question we got in the forms that came in was whether it's possible that a household could be rejected because its energy use is too small. Grace, is that something that you've heard from at Cub, or is it something that we shouldn't have to worry about?
In my experience, I haven't heard of that, but that is something I will definitely make a note about. And I can do a little research on just to see if any of my other colleagues have experienced that or yeah.
One
I only
other,
heard
oh,
of
go
one
ahead.
guy who was unable to subscribe, and the companies just said his his annual electric usage was so low that the paperwork they thought would be more expensive than giving him a subscription. But
Wow.
I only heard of that happening to one individual.
Okay. All right. That's
He
good to
lived
know.
alone. He did not have a family, and he had a very small condo.
Okay, well, that's good to know, but as a general rule, it sounds like many households or most households can participate in community solar without any barriers. And about how we participate in community solar. We saw in the chat and also in the forums some questions about there are these different providers, right? There's MC Squared, there's Nexamp. How can a homeowner verify whether the community solar program in their area, which ones are working well, what the savings are, and how and whether they differ across providers? Grace, I think you spoke to this a little bit when you showed your chart of the different options. What does Cub recommend?
Yeah, so Cub definitely recommends utilizing that resource. We essentially created that resource to help consumers not have to kind of worry about certain kind of essentially having all information, not all information, but these are all companies that we have spoken to um, via email every few months, updating that information. So just kind of confirms that all of these offers are legitimate, are saving people money. We again just recommend like asking those questions. Like I know someone in the chat asked about if Cub has any information about I believe it was current availability for subscriptions. That's something that when you do reach out to this um, company, that's something that we recommend asking if there's a wait list, because that could affect when you um, start seeing those bill credits. So that's just something that we recommend.
Yeah, I'll say that in my personal experience, I was on a wait list for a short period before I was accepted into my current community solar program. And it did take maybe 6 to 8 weeks. And after that, Art, as you described, it was very fast. And I've been in the program since. Um, I'll
Yeah.
bring up,
Uh,
go ahead.
sorry, I was
Yeah,
just going like, oh,
I just wanted to kind of build on what Grace had said on that chart that she mentioned. There's the contact information for the solar providers is easily accessible right there on that chart. You don't have to go anywhere else. On the right-hand column, it's got a phone number and an email address for the company. And on the left-hand column of the chart, you have a hot link directly to their website. So getting in touch with the individual companies is no problem, and they're listed in alphabetical order. I also wanted to underline what Grace said about asking about the wait time. That's an excellent question to ask these folks is if I sign on the dotted line today, when will I be online?
yeah,
Yeah,
and then
go ahead.
one more thing about on Cub's website, we do have blog evaluations of all of those community solar offers that we have listed. So just a little more in-depth information about the differences between the different options and offers.
Yeah, so That's helpful to be able to understand among what the options are and which one is right for your household. Along those lines, we did get a question about what happens if the um, community solar subscription, the company that runs it goes out of business. Has that happened before? Are there conditions that are laid out? Do you have any information about that, Grace?
Yeah, so in my experience, I haven't heard of any, not to say that this hasn't happened, but I haven't heard of any community solar companies going out of business. I have heard of rooftop solar companies going out of business. And with those, we usually send people, and I assume that it would be the same with community solar, if I'm not mistaken, sending them to Illinois Shines, which is the um, program that helps people go solar. It's a sister program of Illinois Solar for All. Um, and there is a form that you can fill out that is for stranded customers. It's called stranded customer complaint form, essentially. And that's specifically for people who are involved with a solar company that went out of business for any sort of reason. So I would assume that that also applies to community solar companies. I just have never heard of, in my experience, again, a community solar company going out of business, but
Yeah,
that doesn't mean it won't ever happen, I guess. So
we're fortunate that it hasn't happened yet.
yes, but yeah, stranded customers from Illinois Shines is definitely what I would recommend.
Great. Thank you for that resource. We have a couple of questions as well about how community solar works with programs and offerings or pricing from ComEd. So the first question is, can community solar be combined with the hourly or real-time pricing? I think we got that both in the forums and as a question in the chat live.
Yeah, so I actually spoke with ComEd's Green Connection team around August because I had some questions about whether community solar is compatible with demand response programs like hourly pricing and peak time savings, stuff like that. And from what I understand and what they wrote back is that you can do both and you can successfully be on community solar and also, like, for example, hourly pricing.
That's great. That's good to know since we got that question. Art, have you had any experience with that? And also your experience with MC Squared in their customer service was asked just now in the chat.
I would say in general, I've been impressed with the customer service that people that I've talked to, not only at MC Squared, but also at all the other companies. At one point, another couple of people in IGN, we divided up all the companies that are listed on the website and we contacted each of them as if we were new subscribers. And we were impressed across the board with the professionalism and responses we got from all the companies that are involved in this.
Wow, that is great to hear. That's not always the case in a sector. George, I think that was your question. Does that answer it for you? Feel free to unmute if you have a follow-up on customer service experience in MC Squared. And if not, other questions we have one from Jen, for example. Why is there a credit check by some of these companies if the application isn't for income qualified opportunities? Grace, do you have an understanding of that?
Yeah, most companies don't. If anything, I think most companies or some companies do a soft check. And I actually had a consumer reach out about a similar question. Just going back into my notes to just confirm that if you want to give me one moment, I will confirm that info. But yeah, usually it's a soft check or a no check. But for
Okay.
I can just add one comment to that as I've gotten to know the industry a little bit. The way it was set up in all the negotiations with the state legislature, et cetera, when these bills were written, they really wanted to build confidence two direction. They wanted to build consumer confidence so that as consumers, we'd feel that these were just like signing up with ComEd. You'd get the same level of service and you would never run out of electricity. They also, because these companies were all new to Illinois in many cases and new to the solar industry, they wanted to build confidence on their part that they would have enough subscribers to keep the business going. And they wanted to build confidence on the part of farmers who were signing up in the program. And so a lot of the things that they set up were kind of confidence builders throughout the whole system.
That's great to hear, a thoughtful program and its implementation. I want to draw folks' attention to the chat as well, where questions are coming in and some questions are being answered. We have 2 questions about power outages and if there's any particular effects for community solar subscriptions, as well as a question about heavy snow affecting the operation of solar panels and how snow is removed. I saw Wendy, the principal organizer of this event, was able to respond saying that if a solar farm is down or there's a need for maintenance or interruption in supply for any reason, you draw from ComEd's standard supply lines. There are no service interruptions to worry about, and there's no billing for that period from the community solar provider. Art or Grace, anything to add there about disruptions in service, either in for maintenance, for summer power outages, or heavy snowfall?
The only thing I would add is about snow. When snow falls on these panels, they're dark panels. And so one of the first things that happens is the snow slides off the panel and the panel just resumes production.
That's great to hear. And it's nice to know that in these farms that solar maintenance is taken care of. We got questions in the forums for registration around solar installation on individual rooftops and for households. What are the biggest differences between the community solar subscription and solar owned infrastructure? Grace, I think you started out in your presentation, as well as you, Art, saying when community solar, you know that it might be right for you.
Yeah, sorry, just to confirm the question, are you asking like about rooftop solar?
Yeah, and comparing rooftop solar to community solar,
Yeah.
we had questions about when you would select one over the other.
Yeah, so essentially, there are some other questions that you can ask yourself about what might be maybe what you're looking for if you're looking for something more permanent. If you have the opportunity and the funds to put solar on your roof, it really depends on person to person. We have lots of resources kind of on our website that kind of help you figure out what's right for you. Usually, we see a lot of renters go use community solar because you can still tap into that clean energy, which I think a lot of people want to do, and also save money without the construction and the financial potential burden of going solar. But there are the state incentives like the Illinois Renewable Energy Credit, which definitely does help reduce the price of the cost within rooftop solar. So again, I think it just depends on what you're looking for specifically. One thing I do want to mention, if anyone is kind of interested in rooftop solar, I would make sure to get 2, 3, maybe even like 5 not opinions, but not recommendations, proposals, just to confirm you're getting what your house needs, and also looking at the difference between ownerships and leases and PPAs. A lease essentially is like if you're leasing an apartment, you pay a fixed rate per month. Sometimes with leases, though, usually you're going to see cost escalators. So sometimes you may be paying X amount the first year, but every year after that, you're paying 2 to 3% more than you did in your first year, which is something that I think it's important to kind of understand your different options with like leases, PPAs, and owning. Sorry if I got a little off tangent,
No,
but
that's helpful. You
um,
know, that spurs for me the federal incentives. I know
yeah,
where folks are considering solar infrastructure and other emissions reducing renovations to homes right now and trying to do
mhm,
so before December 31st.
yeah.
And that brings me to a question asked by Cindy. How will the federal rollbacks of tax incentives for solar affect opportunities for community solar? In what ways? Does it make it urgent to sign up for community solar? Is there any sort of December deadline as we're thinking about for other rooftop solar and solar infrastructure?
Yeah, so I don't have any like confirmed like written information, but I definitely, like you mentioned, rooftop solar. You do have to be connected. You don't have to be energized by December 31st, but you do have to be connected. You have to be installed and paid for with community solar. I personally haven't heard any like I don't like I haven't heard any official information regarding what will happen, but again, I think that um everything may be a little unknown at the moment,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Well, I
but
think the other point that
Art.
may be mentioned is that community solar is a state program.
yes.
So almost all of the money to support the building of these farms is state money, and that is not changing. And so, for the most part, the only thing that might change would be some unusual instance where the solar company itself might be getting some federal money on non-Illinois projects or something like that. But I think that's fairly unusual. And so I would say, the chance of the federal rebates going away is pretty high, but the chance of the state rebates going away is very low.
So that's a great relief, actually, that there is, although we do see these changes in federal policy and tax incentives, this is something that we can continue to count on from the state of Illinois. Is that the right way to interpret your answer, Art?
That's my understanding.
Yes, but it's great to know and to really be able to differentiate since we're all hearing a lot about what's happening with the Inflation Reduction Act, among others. So, on the Illinois policy itself, Jim asks, for Illinois Solar for All, is the income limit based on the number of earners in the household, or is it based on the total number of people in the household in that Illinois state policy?
Yeah, so eligibility is determined, like I mentioned, the county you live in, the number of people living in your home, and then that household income. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's 18 or older, obviously, anyone that brings home a income is involved in that like household income. So let's say um somebody's living in the house who is 18 but does have a salary, that income would be included in that total income, if that makes sense. Also, before I did misspeak, Illinois Solar for All and Illinois Shines are not sister programs. They're just both incentive-based programs through the state of Illinois. So I misspoke there. I apologize for that.
Great. Okay, thanks for the clarification. I appreciate it. It looks like we are answering most of the questions in the chat. If there are additional questions that this discussion has sparked for you, please add them now. There is one big question that I want to ask. I have noticed, and it's been a conversation amongst OP canners, that electricity costs are rising. We see them continue to increase the costs of electric bills month on month. And that seems to be widespread, and it doesn't seem like there's near-term relief. How does rising electricity costs affect community solar subscribers? Do you have a sense?
The discounts are all on a percentage basis. So a year ago, the supply cost of electricity was on the order of 6 or 7 cents per kilowatt hour. And today and probably until next May, it's over a dime per kilowatt hour. So that's a really significant hit. But the savings are 20% of that total cost. So if you take 7 cents per kilowatt hour times the 20% discount, that's a few pennies. If you take a dime, that's almost 2 cents reduction as a percentage. So because it's percentage based, yes, your cost will go up slightly because the baseline cost of electricity goes, but because of that, you'll see an increased amount of the discount as well, although the percentage will stay the same.
Yeah, so going off what Art said, essentially, I think, unfortunately, this rise in these rate hikes, I think they create an extra incentive to go use community solar because, like Art said, you're still saving money, and I think every bit counts. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. So it sounds like as prices increase and if they continue to stay high, there's even a greater incentive, more of a discount that would come to community solar subscribers. So it's a great time to sign up. We can get from 2.5% of Oak Park electric electrified households to maybe up to 5% or 10%, knowing that this can expand renewable energy provision and also reduce those individual bills that households are getting.
Yeah. Can we get
I,
close to 50%?
go ahead.
Can we get close to 50%?
Oh,
Why
can we? Let's
75%?
aim for that. So if you're on this webinar, please let your neighbors and friends and others know there's a great opportunity here. It's easy to do. You can always call Cub and walk through the sign up with them. Another resource is Art is one of Oak Park Climate Action Network's climate coaches. You can sign up and get a 30-minute free session from your neighbors who have already gone through the process of electrifying their households, reducing their emissions, and they can tell you what they wish they knew at the beginning of their process, what subscribers or service providers they used, who was helpful, and what they are hoping to do next. So you can learn about your specific situation from your neighbors. With that, I do want to thank Grace and to thank Art for your incredible presentations, chock full of good information, really easy to understand. Thank you for speaking today, for preparing for it. Many thanks to Wendy and to Cindy and to everyone who made this event possible, to OPCAN and to Cub for sponsoring it. I want to thank everyone here for attending. And now that you know the benefits, please do sign up for Community Solar. Share it with your neighborhoods, with the groups that you're a member of, with your friends. Happy Sunday, everyone. Solar is for everyone. Thank you.